March 1945. The Third Reich is collapsing. The American army is racing across Germany. But in the middle of this chaos, the most famous general in the American military, George S. Patton, suddenly gave an order that made no sense. He ordered a small task force of just 300 men and 57 vehicles to break away from the main army. Their orders were to drive 60 miles straight into enemy territory. Their target? A prisoner of war camp near the town of Hammelburg. His generals told him it was impossible. They called it a suicide mission. Patton told them to do it anyway. He claimed he was worried the Germans would execute the American prisoners. But that was a lie. General Patton had a secret. He wasn't sending 300 men to die for strategy. He was sending them to save one man, Lieutenant Colonel John Waters, who just happened to be General Patton's son-in-law. This is the story of the only mission General Patton ever tried to hide from history. A mission of bravery, arrogance, and total disaster. To lead this impossible raid, the army tapped a tough, battle-hardened officer, Captain Abraham Baum. Baum was 23 years old. He was tired, and he was battle-weary. When he was called into the command tent, he noticed something strange. The generals weren't looking him in the eye. They laid out the map. They said, "You are to take a column of tanks, punch through the German front line, drive 60 miles to Hammelburg, break into the prison camp, load up the prisoners, and drive back." Baum looked at the map. He knew what this was. He was being asked to take a force of 300 men against 2 entire German corps. He asked for more men. Patton said no. He asked for more tanks. Patton said no. Speed was the only weapon they had. On the night of March 26th, engines roared to life. Captain Baum climbed into his jeep. He didn't tell his men the real reason for the mission. He couldn't. All they knew was that they were going hunting. The mission started with violence. To get behind enemy lines, they had to smash through the town of Schweinheim. It was a brutal, close-quarters fight, but once they broke through the crust, they were in the open. For the next 24 hours, Task Force Baum went on a rampage. They were operating completely off the map. Baum's tanks shot up German supply trains. They ran German staff cars off the road. They destroyed anti-aircraft guns. The German high command was in a panic. They thought an entire division had broken through. They began diverting thousands of troops to hunt down this ghost column. But the clock was ticking. Task Force Baum was bleeding. They were losing vehicles. They were running low on fuel. They hadn't slept in 2 days. But Captain Baum kept pushing them forward. "Keep moving. Don't stop." Finally, on the afternoon of March 27th, they saw it. The watchtowers of Oflag XIII-B. They smashed the wooden gates. The prisoners saw the American star on the tanks and went wild. They thought the entire American army had arrived to liberate them. Captain Baum climbed out of his tank, and his heart sunk. Patton had told him there were 300 officers in the camp. He was wrong. There were 1,500 men here. Baum realized the math didn't work. He could maybe carry 200 men. The rest would have to be left behind. And then tragedy struck. Inside the camp, Lieutenant Colonel John Waters, the man this entire mission was for, tried to walk out to the gate. But a confused German guard in a watchtower panicked. He fired one shot. Waters was hit in the stomach. He collapsed in the snow, critically wounded. The mission had failed. The target was too injured to move. Baum ordered the tanks to turn around. But the journey home was not a battle. It was a slaughter. The Germans had moved an entire infantry division to block their path. They had Tiger tanks waiting in the dark. By just a few miles from the camp, Task Force Baum ran into a wall of fire. One by one, the American tanks were hit. The fuel ran dry. The ammunition ran out. By the morning of March 28th, Task Force Baum ceased to exist. The numbers were devastating. Out of 300 men, only about 35 made it back to American lines. The rest were killed or marched right back into the prison cages they had just tried to liberate. Captain Baum ended up in the very hospital he had tried to attack. When General Eisenhower found out, he was furious. Patton tried to lie. He claimed he didn't know his son-in-law was there. But nobody believed him. Weeks later, Patton visited the wounded Captain Baum in the hospital. Baum looked at the general and said, "Sir, it's hard for me to believe you sent us on that mission just to rescue one man." Patton looked at the floor and admitted it. Task Force Baum remains one of the most controversial events of World War II. Was it a father's desperate love or a general's arrogant mistake? Let us know what you think in the comments. This is WW2 Chronicles. We'll see you on the front line.